Hi, Ellen, and welcome to the Natural Birth Podcast. So happy to have you here. How are you today?
I'm doing so great. I'm so excited to be here and just talk about birth. I love birth so much. So excited for this conversation. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. You're preaching to the choir, obviously obsessed about birth. I think it's been 3 years of this podcast now, interviewing women from around the world about their natural, empowering birth stories. And I'm so looking forward to hearing about your 5 natural, empowering home births. And we obviously have a limited time of this podcast. We can't talk for 5 hours, even though I would love to do so. So, what we'll do is, I'd love for you to share with our listeners when you felt pregnant the first time and how you decided to go the home birth route and having a midwife and continuing to do so for your 5 births. And maybe we can dive into the 5 birds, snippets of them, and then really dive into maybe the last one
Mm.
and the wisdom throughout them all. I love that you have such a wealth of wisdom having birthed 5 babies. And I know each and every one of them was very different from each other because they always are. They're so unique, the journeys with each Baba, right? So, with no further ado, Ellen, take us on your journey through pregnancy and birth.
Amazing. All right. Well, your first question about like what drew me to home birthing. A few years before I got pregnant, I had just gotten into the health world and taking care of my body, nourishing myself. And I was working as a cashier at this health food grocery store in California. And so naturally, I chatted with a lot of moms who were coming through the grocery aisle and chatting with them about birth and women who are pregnant. And so many women were talking about having a home birth because I was working at a health food store. So it naturally had people who were into home birthing and just natural birthing. And just that idea kept coming up for me. And it felt like such an obvious choice for me. As soon as I heard it the first time, the idea of home birthing, it felt like obvious that I was going to do that. I didn't even really have to know much information. I just knew, yes, that's what I want. I do not want to give birth in a hospital gown that somebody died in just the day before with bright lights and with people I don't know. Like it just suddenly just made so much sense to me.
Mm.
And so then when I did get pregnant, I told my husband about how I wanted to have a home birth, and he was skeptical at first, a healthy skepticism. So we watched the Business of Being Born documentary, and that totally sold him. And he's like, "Oh yeah, we definitely need to do this." Interviewed, the first CPM that just looked like the right fit for me based on her bio, and we just fell in love with her, and it was just such an obvious choice for us.
Beautiful. For anyone who's not American, what is a CPM?
A certified professional midwife. So there's a few different midwife options here
Mm.
and that are certified. So there's a certified nurse midwife, which has more nurse training. And then a CPM is a certified professional midwife, which is just like specifically midwife training.
Beautiful. Thank you for that clarification, because that's really
Yeah.
very unique to America, to the United States.
Mm,
Whereas in other
yeah.
countries, it's like a midwife is one thing. So,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
beautiful. Great. So, tell us, how old were you when you got pregnant with your first baba? And tell us about, that birth story.
Yeah. So I was 23 or 24. I was 23 when I got pregnant, 24 when I gave birth. I think so. My oldest is 11. So yeah, I think that's right. Um, and I just loved pregnancy. I loved everything about it. I always just felt so good. And I just loved just the journey of growing a baby inside of my womb. And I went into that birth practicing and doing hypnobirthing before, like doing a hypnobirthing class before I went into labor a few weeks prior. And the idea of having a, pain-free birth or a birth that just isn't so excruciating and long, I loved that idea. And so I felt so confident going into that birth. And I look back at it now and I go, wow, I had no idea what was coming.
So, tell us about your experience. Tell us about how labor started and
Ooh,
unfolded for you.
yeah, I think it was about, was it the it was evening time when I felt my first contraction or wave, as they call it in hypnobirthing. And I was so excited, just could not wait to meet my baby. Told my midwife right away, but my midwife's like, just rest, just go to sleep, because it was like the evening. So went to sleep. The next morning, they were still happening, just very mild. And I'm just feeling so like I got this and so confident going into this labor. And my husband, it feels a little bit like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, all right, take out the trash, like pick up the house, go get me some fresh coconut water. He just did these things for me to help me feel like my safest, happiest environment, because I was going to be giving birth soon. And we listened to what our midwife said to do. She's like, how about go on a walk? Because I was kind of telling her how far apart the contractions were. And I think the first time you're in labor, it's just the unknown. You have no idea what's coming. I mean, you can kind of have an idea based on the way people describe, but I feel like it's one of those things that you just don't really know till you experience it. It's just such a hard thing to describe. So while I'm going through it, I'm just so happy and excited. And then it starts getting more intense. And I'm like, oh shoot, what am I doing here? Okay, keep doing the hypnobirthing. I kept trying, but then it got to a point where I was telling my husband, okay, tell the midwife to come. I'm so ready for her to come. And my midwife asked him some questions like, is she still talking? Like, can she look you directly in the eye? Because she wanted to make sure not to come too early. Because sometimes when you get too many people in your space before you're kind of in that super transition time or like intense labor, then it can slow down labor.
Yeah, and this
And
is such important information, because especially for first-time mamas, because this is the thing, right? Because I can feel that, as a midwife or as a birth worker, that sometimes women or families can think, oh, she doesn't want to be here, or, I need her here because otherwise I won't progress. But actually, most of the time, not always, some women actually need like constant female companionship and like that birth worker with them. But I would say 90% don't. It actually works best, especially to really establish labor, to be with your loved one, like your partner and your own family, and just be in your bubble until it really, really establishes full on.
yes. And I actually think that is so sound for me, at least for my second, third, fourth, and fifth birth. But with my first birth, I really just couldn't take what my husband was telling me. I couldn't receive it because I kept thinking, you don't know what this feels like. Like, how are you trying to tell me to just relax and, give me massages? And I'm like, you have no idea what this feels like. So I really wanted the midwife to come, and she was hesitant because I think she could tell they know these men, like, they can tell based on the sounds they're hearing in the background on the phone, even, or if I'm talking to her, like, oh, you're not, just keep going, but I really wanted her to come. She came with her team, her doula and midwife assistant, or I think the doula wasn't there at the time, but the midwife assistant. And as soon as they looked at me, they could tell, oh, you got some ways to go. And that was so discouraging to me. She's like, all right, we're going to go get some coffee. We'll be close, but just let us know if you need anything. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's go time. Baby's coming, right? Like, this is really intense. Like, baby's got to be coming like really soon. Right. And their response was very like, not urgent, you got a ways to go. And she said, just go be intimate with your loved one, or with Andrew. Go be intimate, close the door, be alone. We're going to go get some coffee. Like, let us know when it gets stronger. And I'm like, huh? Like, I felt so discouraged because I thought, this is so painful. How could it get any worse? And I did not. The last thing I wanted to do was go be intimate with my spouse. I was like, heck no, this is not what I want to be doing right now. But I tried to do a couple things she recommended. I got in our bathtub, not the the birthing tub hadn't been blown up yet. And so I just got in the regular bathtub, and I just felt like a whale splashing around in this little tub. And I felt so uncomfortable, and I think I started crying at that point and was like, tell her to come back. Cause I felt so out of control. Like, I really needed that, like, someone who knew what was going on and that trusted the experience and just knew what was happening, because I felt so out of control. I felt like I totally abandoned this hypnobirthing stuff. And when she did come back, she like encouraged me and Andrew, go be alone in your room. We'll wait out here in the living room, because I was clear I wanted her there. But I'm like, all right, fine. So I go in there. We're listening to the hypnobirthing lady on the tape that's telling me to relax, relax your muscles, all that stuff. And at one point, I think a couple of hours went by. It was the next evening by this point. So that was a progression of all day. The afternoon is when she first checked on me, and by the evening, the sun had already gone down, and I was just laying on the bed, just so feeling so defeated. Like, this is so long. When is this going to be over? I was in so much pain and so much agony. And I remember at one point saying, this hypnobirthing is bullshit. Like, I'm like, this is ridiculous. It doesn't work at all. But my midwife came back in at one point because she could tell I was struggling. She tried to give me space. And now that I've been through multiple births, I totally see it. Like, she just knew exactly what I needed, and I didn't know what I needed, you know? And she came in and she just softly looked at me and she said, and I thought she was going to say some like kind of encouraging, soft thing to say, but she goes, listen to the lady on the tape, relax your birthing muscles right there. And she pointed right where I needed to relax, not just your face, not just your hands, but like right there. And I totally trusted her because she had 9 children. And that was actually why I picked her, because I thought, oh, this woman knows what's up. She's had 9 births, you know, and the last 7 of them were at home. So she said, relax your birthing muscles right there. If you don't relax, you're never going to progress. And she said it so clearly, and it felt a little bit harsh, but I know I needed to hear that, because I didn't understand that I'm not a passive passenger in birth. You are part of birth. And so I think going into it, I thought, oh, it's going to happen to me. And while some births are like that, where, you know, you're just sipping a cup of tea and you look down and the baby's crowning. And I know that does happen, but a lot of births, or most births, I think it's important to realize that we're more in control than we realize. It doesn't just happen to us and we just like, okay, whatever the outcome. Like, your mind is really powerful, and how you receive what you're feeling and how you choose to listen to your body and stuff. So
I
once she
think
said
that's
that,
really key. Yeah. I mean, I
yeah,
think it's really key what you're saying about your mind. And I think this is why the the first birth of most women will be a long one, right? Yes, it's their first time for your body, but it's the rite of passage. You're going to meet all your inner demons, your fears, your anxieties, and it is really scary to birth. Like, we need to acknowledge that, because I think most women will go in a bit naive, thinking maybe that they'll be able to, like, many women who come on this podcast, like, will say this and testify to this, that maybe the first, like, they thought they could use the hypnobirthing and just think away the pain or have an orgasmic
yeah,
birth. Like, no, yes, maybe a few, but it's very
yeah,
much, it's a mind game, isn't it? It's a mind game. And the
yes,
first time there will be fear and blockages, and you are so powerful in your mind, you will hold that baby in, and you can hold that baby in for days. And it
mm,
is that thing about leaning into the pain, surrendering to it, actually accepting that it's there, and accepting that you're gonna have to do this. And it
mhm,
is your internal war, like your rite of passage. It is a inner war that you need to conquer, your own ego, your own mind, your own fears, your own inner demons. And
yes, absolutely.
a lot of time, that is what first time mamas goes with for sometimes a few days before they can get to a point where they surrender. Sometimes it's like,
Mhm,
I give up, but it's not giving up. It's like, actually, okay, I'm going to release all the tension and all the resistance that I'm holding inside
mhm,
of me. And that can happen usually when you're really exhausted, like you don't have any, and
mhm.
that's a physiological thing. Like, birth will make you exhausted until you then crack through and you birth.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I heard a lot going into my first birth, like surrender, relax your muscles, relax your face. But for some reason, nothing anyone said really clicked with me until she said those exact words to me. The importance of relaxing those birthing muscles right there. Because one of the things in hypnobirthing is, when you feel the contractions or the waves, you just relax it, because that helps it to go faster, helps you to open faster. You say open, open, you relax your muscles. And while that's all fine and dandy and good, something that I think it's missing in that communication to especially a first time mom is the importance in, you don't just relax in the places where it's easiest to relax. You actually go to the places where you feel it the most and then relax there. You have to relax every part of yourself. And that word surrender was really hard for me. It like didn't compute for me. Surrender versus giving up. That was really hard for me, but understanding that this is actually once I get to my third birth that it finally like clicked with me, or it actually, I think it was a quiet understanding in my third birth, but it wasn't until I went and, assisted my friend's births when I'm trying to convey this message of like, look, this is what you need to do, that finally I was able to say it in a way like, this is it. You need to go to the places that you feel it the most and then relax there with all of your might, with every fiber of your being that like goes to the deepest parts of your soul, that's where you have to relax. Like it's so, because you kind of, what happens is you hear, oh, I need to relax. And then you go to a place where it hurts and you're like, oh, not there. I'm not going to go relax there. I'm going to go lay down in bed where I don't feel it as much, that's where I can relax. But when you do that, it slows down labor. It's actually, you're avoiding. When you go to the places that you feel it the most, you're going, oh, I'm having a hard time relaxing here. So I need to go somewhere where it's easier to relax. But by doing that, you don't realize that you're actually making labor take longer. So this surrendering and going towards it and accepting, letting your body do it, the biggest part is wherever you feel it, that's where you have to keep going. That's where you feel it the most. You go there, stay there. As soon as you feel it, you go, oh, because that's where baby comes down. When you feel it the most, that means baby is coming down and things are happening. When you don't feel it as much and you're just laying down, that's when things are not happening as much. And I didn't realize that going into my first.
Yeah.
So once she said, look, stay right where you feel it so much right here, like stay here and relax your birthing muscles with all of your might, or you're never going to progress. And that was like a wake up call for me, because I definitely didn't want to be transferred to the hospital. I knew I'm having a home birth. Like I'm not going anywhere. And while before, this is backtracking a little bit, but before my midwife came back for the second time, I remember saying to my husband while I was slashing around in the bathtub, like, drugs don't sound half bad right now. Like if I was at a hospital, I probably would have said yes to the epidural and the drug. Like I would have said yes because it felt so intense. So in that moment, I was really glad I was at home, because I didn't want that. I knew that in my most heart of hearts, I didn't want that for myself. So I was where I needed to be, And within that hour, after she told me to relax my birthing muscles right there, I went from 3 centimeters to 8 centimeters in 1 hour, because it just suddenly clicked for me what I needed to do. Like suddenly it made sense. And, the first time she had checked, oh, you're only at 3 centimeters, I felt so defeated because I wanted to be checked. My midwife was very like, it's up to you, because sometimes it can be defeating to hear that for people, but I just needed to know. And I totally thought I was farther along than I was when she checked me at 3 centimeters. But then she could tell once I went through that like 1 hour difference after her talking to me that something was different. So she actually came up to me and said, do you want me to check you? And I could hear them like blowing up the tub. So I was like, oh, something's happening. Like it's amazing how midwives just know based on the sound of your voice and the energy in the room. So I said, yeah. And she checked me and then she said, you're 8 centimeters. And I sat up and was like, what? So excited. And then my water broke right then in the excitement. And it was just such a good moment. She's like, why don't you get into the tub? I said, all right, let's get into the tub. So she brought me to the tub. And as soon as my bottom hit the water, I had the urge to push, like such an overwhelming desire and need and urge to push. I thought, oh, like that deep, grunty, what's happening to me, And so it went from 8 to, gonna be pushing within minutes, like not even, must have been 1 minute when she checked at 8 centimeters. It's amazing how fast it can go once it connected in my mind.
Yeah, it's again, like when you were speaking, I got goosebumps because I feel like you just nailed the most like important piece of information. The mind, the power the mind have over your body, and actually that key information about daring to lean into the pain, daring to dive into your rite of passage fully.
Don't avoid it.
That's it. Don't avoid it. And very much what you say, I have this experience as being the space holder for birth, like the midwife at birth, where yes, I notice when someone is finding the comfortable position, they just sink down in the bathtub a little bit, avoiding that pushing sensation, avoiding that pain, and then going like, hey, this is gonna only take longer. And sometimes it needs to. Sometimes you need to sit in that uncomfortableness until you find your courage as a woman to lean into it.
Mm,
And that's also a part of it. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with going for days too, if that is your process. We each have our unique process that we need to experience for our own growth, for our own information about how to be mothers to this baby, right? It is a rite of passage and it will look
yeah.
very different each time. So I love that. Okay, so take us back to the
Yes.
birth.
Okay. So then, yeah, no, but I loved what you said there. It's so true. Then I started pushing and my midwife said, slow down, don't push so hard. At that point, I was just so wanting this to be over, but I will say because the labor was so painful and so long, the pushing felt like not near as big a deal. I was because the contractions went away and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much better. Now get this baby out of me. I just wanted it to be done,
Mm.
and but my midwife said, slow down, you don't want to tear, just breathe slowly. And I just completely ignored her advice. I'm like, no, I have to push. I just pushed with all my might. And the baby came out within, I think it was 45 minutes, a boy. His name is Elvis. This is the most magical moment of my life. Like, what did I just do when I pulled that slithery baby up into my arms? Like, I could not believe, like, I was just in total shock and euphoria and joy. Like, what did I just do? And it was just the most magical moment of my life. It was everything felt so worth it. Like, there's my baby. And it was just the best. I say all of my births were the best days of my life. I tell that to my children a lot. When the day you were born was one of the best days of my life because all 5 of them was the best days of my life. But so then I tore a little bit. She had to do 2 stitches, but even just those 2 stitches felt so frustrating to heal. For 6 weeks, it was sore to sit on my bottom. And I really didn't want to tear the next time. So I remembered that going into my future births and learned with a different midwife because by the next birth, I was in Hawaii for the rest of my last 4 births.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that's the next story. But
Mm.
yeah, postpartum was like so intense. I think I kind of feel like it felt like a train hit me in the face a little bit,
Mm.
like going from having 0 to 1 child. None of the other, how they say, oh, when you have more, it gets harder. Like nothing was as hard as the first to me because I just all of a sudden, you can't just go to the bathroom the moment you want to go to the bathroom. You might be holding a baby who needs to eat, or you want to eat and like you got to be changing poopy diapers or whatever, trying to figure out breastfeeding with a sore bottom and like learning how to breastfeed for the first time was so intense. But I was so thankful for my midwife's guidance and help. I called her in the middle of the night crying and she just would say, look, Ellen, like go hand Elvis to Andrew, go take a break, go to the bathroom, drink some water, take a deep breath, like you're fine, you got this. And so that type of steady assurance was the best thing ever. I'm so thankful for midwives.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think this is really important information because I really do think that I would say at least 95% of all first-time mothers will go through. It's like, it's the whole thing. It's the pregnancy, it's the birth, and it's the postpartum, and it's the whole first year, really. It's like such a life-altering event. And it's going from maiden to mother. That is the biggest leap. And it's so huge. And I think it's a beautiful information you're sharing, like how that really is. That was the toughest part, not having maybe the fifth, but having the first, because it is the
Yes.
biggest change. And to be
Yes.
like gentle, accepting and allowing and humble in front of that and not expecting to bounce back and, or be the same as you were before. Like you are a totally different person. You are now a mother and that is your entire universe. And that can be really hard. And there's also a natural, normal grieving process of leaving the maiden behind. And I think we don't acknowledge that. That is actually important to allow yourself to grieve the parts of you that have died and that will never be again.
And also for me, it was learning how to accept help or even ask for help,
Big
because
part.
once I had more kids, I realized the beauty of having a meal train and people being willing to, bring you meals and stuff. And while we did have a little bit of a meal train, I look back and go, why didn't I ask my sister or my mom for more help? I don't know why I didn't do that. I just didn't even think like I could just ask for help.
Because
And
it's not
that
in our
is,
culture. It's not
yeah.
culturally thing
Yeah.
we do. We're not taught that, and we're not shown that. It's not mirrored to us as children. I mean, that's what an amazing thing that you tell your children that their birth was the best day of your life. Like that is setting them up for success in their own journeys of becoming parents, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just am so glad that my children have all seen their siblings be born too. So Elvis has seen the other four children, his four siblings be born, which is amazing. What an incredible message for sons and daughters in their own way to see
Yeah.
the empowerment of what a woman can do and is designed to do. I just think it's going to be amazing for whoever they end up with.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you for that really amazing first birth story. And then let's talk about your second. How quickly did you fall
Okay.
pregnant again? And how was that birth for you?
Yeah, and this one will be shorter because actually my second birth was almost identical to my first birth. And I felt very frustrated by that because, but when I got pregnant with my second, it was about, let's see, they're 3.5 years apart. So, and people always said, oh, the second goes so much faster. It's so much easier because now you know what to do. I thought, great. I'm so excited for this. Yes, faster. Definitely want that. And that's not what happened. It was just as long, almost an identical birth. I think it was like 2 hours shorter. So the first one, but the whole how long was labor is very interesting because people define when labor starts very differently. I
Mm,
always said 26 hours for my first labor, but that was the first contraction to the end. But some people
mm,
don't really start how long labor lasts until it gets, more intense, maybe the next day in the afternoon. So that part doesn't really matter. It was just the fact that it was almost an identical labor. And I felt so defeated. Like, how is it taking so long again? And I think I must have just forgotten. I've forgotten what I needed to do, that I needed to go to the place where I feel it the most. And yeah, so it was a very similar birth. But there was this one part that was really important for me. The doula that my midwife had brought was just holding space for me while I was sitting on a birthing ball. It had already been a long time. It must have been 20 hours, like start to finish, but the beginning was a lot easier. But I'm sitting on the birthing ball and the contractions aren't going away. And she's just holding my hands and she's just, I don't know, holding space for me. She's not even really saying anything. She's just there for me. And I'm like, the contractions are not going away. And she's like, yes, that's good. You're going through it. And then I realized, oh, I'm going through a transition where it just doesn't stop. There's no break. And the thing that really got it to that point was I was feeling really defeated and just looking at my midwife in just total sadness, like, what is wrong with me? Why is it so long again? Everyone else's birth goes shorter the second time, I thought. And I just felt really defeated by that. But my midwife said, you know what? It doesn't matter. Come here. Let's go outside. Let's go look at the moon. And my
mm.
midwife, my Hawaii midwife for my second and third birth, she retired after the third birth. So I've had three different midwives between the five kids. But she was this really amazing OG midwife on the island she was very old, close to retirement, this long hair, and just like, total hippie. But she just trusted the birthing process and she was amazing. And she told me to come outside and look at the moon and have a few contractions looking at the moon. And I don't know what, but that did it. So I was leaning on my husband, look, and she's like, just look at the moon, relax your muscles. And that just took me there. So then it was basically it was a shorter pushing phase. And the main difference with this one though, is that I told my midwife beforehand that I didn't want to tear with this one. It was so annoying and frustrating to heal with stitches on my bottom, especially while breastfeeding a newborn. And so she said, she's just amazing, you guys. She said, okay, well, I'll tell you what, this is what you need to do. And she has had so much history with helping women with birthing. And to just get a little picture about her is that she used to help women give birth, assist women in a certain part of Africa where she would help women in birth. I don't remember why she was there, but she was. And she said, whenever babies were taking a long time or if they got stuck, all the women in the town would come and hold the women upside down and shake her. And she said, and I'll be darned, it worked every time. And I thought, what? It was like the craziest. This is not anything I'm advocating for. It was just a funny story
But you know,
about
it
how,
makes sense though. Can I just
yeah,
like, because
yeah,
this is key information. Not hanging yourself upside down, but
yeah,
maybe, for example, downward dog, or have your, be on the couch and then go down on all fours with your hips up. What it does is that it helps baby reposition. So
Yeah.
sometimes, a lot of times, long labors can be definitely the mind, definitely internal tension, definitely, stuff like that. But it can also be positions of baby, and
Mhm.
so it makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't
Yes.
hang someone upside down,
No,
but
it's just
to
hilarious.
go, yeah, to
Yes,
go
but
upside down has,
absolutely.
yeah, it has
There's
merit.
also like the Miles circuit, and there's lots of different, spinning babies techniques, all those different things to help like guide baby into the perfect optimal position. But that had nothing to do with the tearing. It just helps you understand like how amazing of a midwife she was in her long history with different types of birthing communities. So she said that once you start feeling the urge to push, instead of bearing down, you slow down. And the way to slow down the baby coming out, which it sounds counterintuitive, like you feel this urge to push, why would you want to slow down and make it take longer? But she said it's not going to make it take longer. It just helps the baby come out softer. So she said you breathe up instead of breathing out like, oh, you have this urge to do that. It's kind of like, for someone who's never given birth that's listening to this, it's, for a lot of women, it can be like feeling the urge to to poop. If you have to poop and
Mm.
there's no way that you're going to stop that poop, right? But instead of pushing it out with all your might and your effort, because it's a very natural instinction to push that way, to slow it down is to breathe up instead of breathing out. So it sounds like this. And so it naturally, it's not like you have to breathe like that. It's just a surefire way to make sure you're not breathing down and pushing and bearing down. So it helps you to hold it up a little bit, breathe it up. And once I got to the pushing phase, because she had told me about this beforehand, and I kind of chuckled at her, but I said, okay, I'll do it. Once I got to the pushing phase again, I was so over it. I'm like, no, I don't care. I'm just going to push the baby out. And she looks at me and she goes, no, Ellen, you told me to tell you, remind you, you're going to care. You need to listen to me now and slow down. And so she told me to breathe up, and I was like, all right, fine. And I did it. Baby came out in like 20 minutes, I think, of pushing, or 10 minutes. And I didn't tear at all, no tearing whatsoever. And I was so thankful for her guidance, because I did not feel sore on my bottom at all. It was by the next day, I was already sitting up, or even 1 or 2 days, I was sitting up without any pain to sit. And that was just the best type of recovery for me. It felt so nice to just sit up and feel normal in my body. I was still obviously postpartum and tender and leaky and, bleeding and all that stuff, but just not feeling sore to sit up made such a difference. So I think it can be easy for women to just focus on the labor. And once you get to the pushing, you're just, all hell breaks loose. You're like, whatever, just get the baby out. But it really does help with your postpartum experience if you can avoid or lessen the tearing.
Absolutely. I think I want to ask you about this breathing though. Could you still relax your bottom? Could you still relax the birthing muscles while you did this breath?
I'm not sure, but I kind of feel like at that point, baby's coming out. There's
Yeah.
nothing you're really, at least for me. So,
Mm.
but I know that it can be where sometimes, the pushing can feel very long for people.
Yeah.
So I think it just kind of took the pressure off my bottom.
Mm.
So because I was so focused on breathing up, uh, I didn't feel tight in my body because I had so much focus on just the breathing up part, and you feel that urge.
Yeah.
I did actually, now that I'm trying to bring myself back. I do feel softened down there still, because I just felt so much like baby wanted to come out, and I literally was just basically holding it in with my breath. So it's not like before the pushing phase. It would only be when you have that incredible urge and baby is like on the verge, and like baby's
Yeah.
head is coming out. That's when you do that. So baby's coming out.
Because I love this information, and I want it to be clear to people that, because what can happen is that women naturally will like hold their breath or like breathe shallowly, which can be interpreted as what you're saying, and
Yeah, it
then
kind of sounds like
clenching.
that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's important to, if you want to try this breath, which, sounds amazing, to also
Yeah.
remember to still like surrender, relax, and open. Because if you tense your vagina, if you tense the
Yeah.
opening of your vagina,
Yes.
and you'll tear. Like, you need that to fully surrender and open, because your vagina is
Yes.
amazing at doing that. But again, so however you're breathing, whatever works for you, it needs to be also fully relaxing and opening at the same time.
Yes, totally. I know it's kind of one of those things that's hard to explain till you're in it. And I
Yeah.
don't know if it just depends on someone's birth, because it is so important to relax the birthing muscles. And you always hear the floppy face, floppy fanny type thing, with the naked doula. Love her. And she just talks about having like the face being floppy. So when you're going, that's definitely not the same thing. But I think it's more just the posture of
Mm.
a lightness, a breathing up. And you still have like a breath that's coming out, like, it's just soften the up because imagine trying, I don't know, trying to go poop like that. It would definitely kind of hold it. It would just make it go a little slower, right?
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
love that. That's a new version of breathing I haven't heard. I've heard many.
Yeah,
And,
I know.
have had definitely a lot of women having different kinds of techniques that they
Yeah.
use. So it's lovely to
Yeah.
have a new one.
Yeah. And I think because there's so much the message is to soften and slow down, but that can feel very impossible in your brain if you don't have a tangible thing to do to slow down when you feel an incredible urge to push because it's undeniable. Like you have this incredible, like, there's no way I'm not pushing right now. And
Mm.
so, how do you counteract that by slowing it down? That's why my midwife said to breathe up.
Yeah.
In that way. But you don't want to hyperventilate. So that's why I don't know, just her
Yeah.
guidance, whatever she said, it worked. So yeah.
Love it. And when it comes to, making it go slow, there's also like you can be in different positions that help slow it down, and
Yeah.
putting your own hand down and like be very aware of the baby coming out and all of that, right? So there's so many things that you
Yes.
can do. Breathing is definitely
Yes.
one of them. So,
Yeah.
okay, so this one was, the same length. What about your third? What happened in the third?
Yeah. So the third was definitely my most transformative birth. That was what really things changed because by this time was a few years later. Yeah, they're 3 years apart. And I really just wanted to do a labor that was faster and quicker. And it would be great if it felt better, because you hear about these things about how you can have births that aren't painful. And it just felt so like it was so hard for me to comprehend because that wasn't my reality. That wasn't what I felt. Um,
Do you want to hold space for a woman's rite of passage from maiden to mother and provide a safe, sacred, and physiological birth space for her and her family? Do you view birth as a sacred portal and a life-altering event worthy of honoring, safeguarding, and celebrating? Then the Spiritual Midwife Mentorship Program is for you. Starting on the 15th of May, weaving ancient and modern knowledge of her story, women's wisdom, physiological birth skills and birth advocacy, and the art of sacred space holding, this program is unique to its kind as it also offers one-on-one mentoring with me, personally assisting you in becoming the clear channel and best space holder you can be. You will be held, nurtured, and supported for a whole year inside our worldwide spiritual midwife community as you learn and embody the teachings and skills and start sharing your gifts with the world. Through monthly masterclasses, Q&As, support and sharing circles, as well as the one-on-one mentoring, this program is like no other program in the world in its depth of value and support you'll receive. For more information and to apply, click on the link or visit me at thenaturalbirthcourse.com.
And when I did the hypnobirthing with the first time, it was four couples. And at the end, we all got together with our babies when we all gave birth. And two of them, me and one other said, no, it definitely didn't work for me. And then the other two, they said, yeah, it did work. I wouldn't say that my birth was painful. And I said, what? How is that possible? What was I doing wrong? So anyway, so then I'm pregnant with my third. And at this time, I have a new neighbor, because we're in a different place in Hawaii. And we become really close friends. And I was telling her about how I really would love for my birth to just be quicker and, feel good if it could. And she said, well, you can do that, And she said it was such a confidence. And I said, what are you talking about? And she started telling me about this method called the mind change method. So what she was doing, she hadn't like called it that at that point, but there's lots of different modalities on rewiring your brain to really have the birth that you dream. And she just basically told me the power of the mind, that your mind goes all the way back to your subconscious. So hypnobirthing can be really great, and it could be really helpful for some people who don't need that like really deep conscious rewiring of what you think birth is supposed to feel like. but it's a little bit like affirmations, hypnobirthing.
Yeah.
It's a little, and so the way that the rewiring your subconscious is a lot deeper of a method, because if you're telling yourself something on the outside, like my birth feels good, it feels good, it feels great. But if your subconscious says, nah, no, it doesn't. This is not what birth feels like. This is not what my friends tell me it feels like. This isn't what the movies say it feels like.
That's
Doesn't even
right.
tell me what my path birth felt like. And so your subconscious is really what runs the show. So if you're just slapping on affirmations on top, it's not actually going to do that much, compared to what your subconscious is feeling. So I was really skeptical at first, but she said, look, why don't you just come to my house for like a 2-hour session with her and her husband, who were really close friends at the time. And I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. There's this little session where we just sit down together, and she has me go back to what my first memories of what birth is supposed to feel like were. And we go and we rewire those memories. So basically about, oh yeah, my Aunt Jane had told me that, birth is, your mom gave birth to you and it took 40 hours and it was so long and she just couldn't get you out and it was so painful. And so that was kind of my first memories of birth. So we went, and it's hard to explain in like a little birth, like 1.5 hour podcast. So I won't go too much detail, but it's a really powerful method that I just was very skeptical. And she even said, even if you don't think it's going to work, it still works. So I was like, all right. So I just did that. And this was about 2 weeks, I think, before I gave birth. And she had me tell her exactly how long I wanted my labor to be. And she had me tell me what I wanted labor to feel like. And that actually was hard to figure out, like, well, what do I want it to feel like? What should it feel like if I could choose what labor feels like, and just going into that. And I was saying maybe sensations and pressure or waves and different things like that, but really getting to the heart of rewiring the brain, the subconscious. And so I went into labor shortly after that, like I think it was a week or two. I can't remember how far apart it was, but it was pretty close to labor. And I had told her that I wanted labor to be 8 hours long. And I just didn't want it to be painful. I wanted it to feel good. I wanted it to feel powerful, sensational, enjoyable, intense, but enjoyable, all that. And so I went into labor in the afternoon and was starting to feel waves pick up pretty quickly, definitely quicker than my first two. And I was getting really excited. And we had my 2 older kids go to their house, to our neighbor's house, while I was in labor. And we went to walk around the park, just me and my husband, just go on a walk together. And I can't even remember right now what else we did in those next few hours, but the sun started setting and it started to get a lot more intense. And then I had moments of, because it was starting to feel, it was feeling good. I'm like, wow, I can do this. It's feeling good. It's actually progressing faster. I'm keeping in touch with my midwife. But then I had moments where it started to feel painful. And I said, oh no, I'm failing. I'm not going to get it to, I'm doing something wrong. What am I doing? And then that's when the fear creeped in, because I started to feel pain and then there was fear. And so then I knew, okay, I need to talk to my friend. So I called Heather McKean, if anybody wants to look her up on the Mind Change Method. And she came over and she just talked me down, and she just looked me in the eye and she said, look, like, you are in control. Your mind, you know what to do. Go back to our session. You know what to do to rewire your brain and tell your body how it feels. You can make it feel this way. And so then that really shifted it for me. And I really was able to get to that place. And I also was intimate with my husband this time because my midwife really recommended it. And by this time, something clicked for me where I realized how birth can be sensational. It can be sensual. And so that really helped kick it up too. It was the going on the walks. It was being sensual with my partner and just letting him take care of me intimately in those phases where it was starting to really pick up, to just get it kick started even more, to get it really into gear. And so by that time, we told the midwife to come, and I realized, wow, this is so intense. And I could tell by the third time that, my third time giving birth, like where I was at this point, at least somewhat. I knew that it was a lot farther along than the last two. And I realized the only thing holding me back was myself, because I didn't have my birth team there. I didn't call my midwife yet, because I guess assumed with the other ones, oh, it takes longer, I don't need them to come yet. But I realized, wait, my body's not doing it until I get my birth team here. Like, I'm not letting myself get to this place until I just tell my body what to do. And with that birth, I literally told my body what to do and when. It was incredible. My midwife got there and she goes, oh, honey. She's like, you're just right about there. You're just doing it. She didn't even have to check me, and she just knew. She's like, oh wow, look at you. And she could just tell. And I was just smiling through the waves. It was so intense, but I was smiling because I felt so powerful because I knew I was influencing my birth. And I was telling myself what to do and when. And so my husband said, do you want to call the photographer? Because this time I really wanted to film it. And my last 3 births are on YouTube on Ellen Fisher on that YouTube channel. And I'm just so glad that we captured it. I wish I captured the first 2 as well. But so I realized, oh yeah, I need her to come. He said, are you sure? And I said, yeah, because I know when she gets here, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to have a contraction and look at the moon. And then I'm going to come inside and get in the tub and give birth. He's like, okay. And so, all right. So he called the photographer just as she got there. I'm like, get me outside. I go outside. I'm looking at the moon, and I go through these big waves, like 2 big waves while I'm hands in the grass, like a total wild animal, just hands in the grass on all 4s, just allowing it to happen to my body, opening up, embracing it, looking forward to it. And I think part of that brain rewiring was so helpful because it helped me to actually look forward to each sensation and to go towards it. And so when I did that, I said, all right, get me in the tub. And I just knew as soon as I got in the tub, I had the urge to push, and I pushed baby out in 20 minutes. And the start to finish contraction from first contraction to the end was 8 hours. And I was so proud of myself because it was exactly what I told my body to do. I said I wanted like a 6 to 8 hour labor, and I got it exactly what I wanted. And it felt so empowering and transformational for me because while all my births were empowering, they were all transformational in their own way, and they all needed to happen the way that they did. I was just so glad that I could do it the way I wanted with this 3rd one, that I really influenced my birth, and I felt just total euphoria. And she was also my first girl. We had 2 boys, then we had a girl. We waited with each birth to find out, and it was the best surprise ever. I was just sobbing in joy, not only from just having my baby, but like that I did the birth the way I wanted it to go, you know?
Wow, beautiful. Again, power of the mind, power of our mind. Wow.
Yeah. It was amazing.
Beautiful story. So how was your 4th birth?
So the 4th birth was very similar to the 3rd, except that I felt kind of like a birthing pro at this point. Like I realized that birth is somewhat of a skill. You know, once you experience it a bunch of times, I knew exactly what to do. Like, okay, when I feel the sensation, go towards it. And so I did that from the very beginning. I now knew to, as soon as I felt those sensations, the first beginning of like, oh, this is actually labor. Because I felt Braxton Hicks for a couple weeks before I gave birth with this one. And I hadn't experienced that with the first 3. And so at this point with this one, I'm like, okay, well, when is it starting? Is it really? And I realized it was just kind of up and down, just kind of doing little things. And so it wasn't the same as, oh, it's starting right now, it was a little different. But then I'm playing a board game in the afternoon after, like with my kids, and I was all done with work and I didn't have any more obligations because I work a lot. So that is one thing that I really needed with my last 2 births, to make sure I put work aside, check everything off my list so that my body can truly relax and let myself go into labor. And that was really helpful. So once I did that, I'm playing a board with my kids, and I realized, oh, the contractions aren't going away at this point. They're not just, having a little bit here in the morning and then going away. It was getting to the afternoon. And I realized, all right, I'm just going to make labor happen. Like I just said, okay, kids, we need to have you go next door with, who we had set up childcare. Just me and Andrew are going to be alone. And we just did the thing. And by that evening, right after the sunset, I gave birth. And very similar, feeling just so powerful and leaning into those sensations and embracing it, going towards the places where you feel it the most and opening up. I did a lot of squatting on like just deep squats. That helped me a lot too. Did some spinning babies and gave birth on our deck with the sun just going down, and it was beautiful. And little Koufax, that's his name, a boy.
Beautiful. And how long was that birth? Was that around the same, like 8 hours, or was it quicker?
I think it was a little bit more like 6 hours. once I really decided, okay, this is labor, I'm just going to make it happen. I really
Amazing.
felt like I was just telling my body what to do and when. And
Amazing.
all of them were born in the birthing tub as well, which was so amazing.
Yeah, it's such a gentle transition for baby, and it's such a pain relief, and just makes you feel like you can move and you're not so heavy, you're more mobile and flexible. Hey, so let's dive on into your fifth, and
Yes.
let's take it from like, early signs of labor approaching, or if you did something different that pregnancy to prepare, or anything different for you that fifth birth, and let's dive really deeply into this.
Mm-hmm. So with my fifth birth, oh, this birth was just so amazing. It was just so magical. At this point, I have 3 boys and 1 girl. And my daughter really wanted a sister because she knew if she had a boy, she would have 4 brothers and no girls. And this was going to be our last baby. So she really wanted a sister, but we also just prepared her like it could be a boy and that's okay too. And like there's so many joys to being the only girl, all that stuff. But we just knew in her heart of hearts she really wanted a girl. We would all be like, it's probably a boy just because we already have a lot of boys. It's probably going to be a boy. She's like, no, it's going to be a girl. She just knew. And that was amazing. So let's see, start to finish. I have to really think it because there's 5 verses. I'm like, hey, what was the main thing that really started it for me there? I have to like go back to it because it's been a long time now. She's 8 months old now. And
Yeah.
like after I think just like experiencing each one, I have to like recenter myself. Okay, what was my feelings going into this one? The main thing I really, really wanted for this birth was to give birth in natural daylight. It might sound silly, but because all my other births were at nighttime, and I just love filming photography. I love just the beauty of that. And I just really wanted a birth during the day where I was, because we have such a beautiful deck now at this point, now that we're in our kind of forever home, because the first 3 births we were in, not our forever home, but we love this place. And I wanted a birth during the day. So that was like my biggest goal. And I also was working on my birth course at this point with my sister and also other experts, or just experts. I wouldn't call myself an expert, but experts. We had a OBGYN to contribute to the nutrition part, and then a doula friend of mine who helped contribute for those choosing a hospital setting, and there's just a lot of different things. And also my friend Heather was in this course for the mind change method to help so people can get brain rewiring. And that's what really sets this course apart. So I was working a lot on that course, and I knew I wasn't really going to give birth till I could just put that aside. And this was the first birth where I actually went late. All my other births were right on time. Elvis was a week early, and then the other 3, wait, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, the other 3 were born pretty much on their due date. And so I just expected to be on my due date for this one. But once, a week goes by after my expecting, guest date, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And my midwife just kind of knew. She's like, well, you're still working. You need to like put it down and just relax and center yourself. And she's like, go take a swim in the river. Cause at this point I think I was 7 days or 8 days or 9 days past my due date. And I just, I was ready. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I need to stop working. I'm ready for this baby to come. And she's like, okay, go swim in the river, eat a bunch of watermelon, go be intimate with your partner, do the mile circuit. I think she told me to do. And just, I had put work away the last few days. And so my mind was ready to go there. And once that night that I got home from doing what she told me to do, I started to feel, waves coming along, and I felt like, okay, this could be it. It's getting more intense than the last week of the Braxton Hicks that I was experiencing. But I really wanted a day birth. So I told my midwife, she knew what I wanted. And she's like, okay, to just lay in bed and just be totally still. Like, just try not to like get it going, because that's what midwives recommend anyways, is go to sleep. If it's nighttime, just go to sleep. Don't go make it, like, if you can sleep, you should sleep.
Oh yeah.
But I also was just, it was starting to get stronger, but I was like, no, this is not happening right now. We got to wait till the sun comes up. So that night, my husband's sleeping next to me, and it was starting to it was uncomfortable to sleep. It would wake me up. I was falling asleep, and the waves would wake me up, and I'm like, nope, not right now. Go back to sleep. So it took actually a lot of effort to get my body to just simmer down and wait till the morning. But I told myself, all right, once it hits, I think I said 5:30 in the morning, I was like checking the clock. I'm going to get up and just go be by myself out on the deck and just let myself experience it and start to kick it up. And so once 5:30 in the morning hit, I walked outside and I was just looking at the moon. You could still see the moon even though the sun was coming up, and it was just so beautiful. I think it was a full moon or really close to a full moon. Yeah, it was. It was a full moon. And so I was just looking at the moon again. The moon seems to be a theme in my last few births, which was really special. And then the kids wake up, an hour later, and I'm just telling them, I think that today's the day. And they're all getting so excited because, all the siblings at this point, except for my youngest, had already seen a baby be born, and they just loved the experience every time. Getting to see their baby be born was I'm just so glad and thankful that they got to be a part of all of it, you know. But do you want me to keep going? I've
Yeah,
been talking a lot.
love it.
Okay, so then it's picking up, and I have one of my best friends come and watch the kids over next door at our Ohana while I'm in labor. I tell my midwife, and I have one of my other best friends, Chelsea, who's a photographer, come, and she's filming it, and I'm just getting some alone time in my room. And I actually put headphones on this time, and I was just dancing to music in my room. I just wanted birth to feel so playful and enjoyable. And I just felt so excited to know the baby's coming. And I really think the dancing was just such a great way to get labor going and just not being able to hear anybody else. Because at this point, I had already gone on a walk. I had already been intimate with my partner, and the birth team was kind of setting up, And I think when my midwife came, she had checked, and it was like, I think I was like 5 centimeters or something like that. Because I like to that's just for me. I like to know. And they're setting up the tub and everything, but I just wanted to tune everybody out. And the headphones really help me feel alone. I don't have to hear anybody else that's there. And, it's such a natural part of labor when you have a bunch of people there looking at you. It can just kind of tense you up and just make
Yeah.
everything take longer. So I wanted to just feel very complete and free, completely free. And they're setting up the birthing tub, and I can't remember exactly. It was mid-morning at this point, maybe 10 or 11 in the morning. And I'm just dancing the baby out. I'm just doing all the moves with my dancing. And as it's getting more intense, then I I realize, oh, this is it. Because it's like you kind of forget. There's like a saying that if women remembered what birth feels like, then they would never have more than one. I know it's kind of like a joke, but you forget what it feels like until you're in the middle of it again. And so as it was getting intense and it was getting to that like go time, like I knew this is the moment I either can retreat from it or I can go towards it and embrace it and just allow it to happen and let it in, let my body open so that baby can come down like a flower and softening. And I actually use a lot of words of like juiciness and ripeness and softness. And I like to, at this point, the last 2 births, I'm really equating birth to like sex. That the softer you are, the more open you are, the more plump you are down there, then the easier that baby glides out. Because the first couple births, I did not want to equate intimacy and labor at all. I thought, no way, how are you guys getting there? They're not connected. But then once I got to the third and realized that they are, it made such a powerful difference in my labors. And it just really helped everything to soften up. Because if you think about trying to have sex when you're dry and not sexually aroused, it does not feel good, right? But if you're sexually aroused and you're softened and it's juiciness, all that juiciness just makes everything feel better. And it totally does. And especially one thing from anybody listening, back to the part when we're talking about going towards the places that you feel it the most, when you really relax there, and it's so hard to do it, and it's like it takes all your mental strength to relax in the places that you feel it the most, just like within the deepest parts of your soul. But once you do that, it actually does feel better because you're no longer resisting. You're letting go and you're softening, and then everything just relaxes. And it's so hard in the moment, and you're like, I can't do this, I can't. But if you just set that aside and know the power of your strength, that you can do it, you just relax it with every fiber of your being, it does start to feel better. And that's the most amazing part. And then it just makes baby come out so much faster. There you go.
And it is very much like you say, like our sexuality and birth, it's so intertwined.
Yeah.
And when your vagina will get more swollen closer to birth, you get more juicy. But if you can also add relaxation and really going into sensuality, and I love that you dance, because this is something that women have done throughout the ages. Belly dancing is actually originally birth dancing. It was never meant to be witnessed by men. Women would come together and spiral baby down. You know, here in Australia, Indigenous people, they sing and tell baby to spiral down, spiral baby down, you know, sing baby down through movement, through circular movement, to hip movements in circles. Like everything in the universe is spiraling, everything is circular. And so I love that you use dance, and I really encourage women to do that, to loosen up their hips, to relax and like really dive into their hips, their vagina, their womb, be heavy, do those birthing moves. That is belly dancing.
Amazing. I love that. I didn't know that about belly dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think at that point, baby was just coming really quickly. And so the funniest part about this, you guys, is that it was starting to get so intense that I knew I was like about at that point where I was going to be close to starting to feel the urge to push, but I hadn't quite gotten there yet. And so I said, okay, they said, do you want to go into the tub? And I said, yeah, let me just go pee first and then we'll get in the tub. Cause I actually really like to wait until the end to get in the tub. And I know some women go in and out of the tub, and that can be very relaxing to slow it down a little bit. But I am not in I have no interest in slowing things down when I'm in birth now. Now that I knew what my first two felt like and just how long they were, I just wanted quick and efficient, and let's just go towards it, you know? But that's just me. And not like so quick, you know, where it's like within hour, 1 hour, but I just didn't want to drag it on. And I always was just, I'll get in the tub right when I have the urge to push. So we knew it was close, and I was like, I think past 8 centimeters at this point, or 8 centimeters. So I said, let me just go pee in the bathroom and then we'll go into outside in the tub. And right as I sat down on the toilet, my husband was in there in the bathroom with me. I felt this incredible urge to push. And my husband said that he looked at me and it looked like my eyes were going to pop out of my socket. Like, like it's happening right now. And in my head, I thought, oh, no way in hell am I giving birth on the toilet the one day I have natural light. Like, get me outside. I was like, that is not happening. Because it was like this beautiful, gorgeous day. We had the birthing tub all set up and plants all around. And I just wanted to be in the tub out there. So I thought, there is no way I'm giving birth on the toilet right now. So my husband basically, I'm like, just get me out there. So he pretty much carried me. I think and it's like kind of a long walk. It was the back of the house. And so he kind of carried me. I leaned on him. I don't know. We made it work. And he just lifted me into the tub, and baby came out in just a few waves, and doing that same breathing up and softening and just listening to my midwife's cues. I love to ask questions like, what do you think about, in between those waves, in between the urges to push, there's a little bit of a period of calmness. And that's so helpful because it helps you to center yourself, helps you to just, okay, I got this. With the next wave, I'm going to breathe up. And then I almost just, after the second one, by the third time, I said, okay, I'm ready to get the baby out. Because my midwife was you got this, just do it how you know to do it. And so that helps me to trust myself when I know my midwife trusts me. And so by the third time, I was like, all right, I'm getting the baby out. And so I just like pushed a little bit with my breathing up and let my mind bring the baby out. And with this baby, she came right out in one swoop. All my other births, the baby's head would come out, and then I have another pause, and then I can push the rest of the body out. But this one, she just came right out, and I just pulled her up with my arms. This was the first one where I pulled my baby up onto my chest by myself. I didn't have anybody else pulling him up. All the other ones, like, the midwife is kind of holding on and just helping me just bring the baby onto my chest, and then they're covering the baby with blankets. And this time I was very like, I just want to do it myself. You guys can just back away. I told them this before the birth too, that I really laid it out moment by moment of what I wanted for my birth. And then that's what happened. And it was just so amazing. I'm always on this like amazing high right after I give birth that I forget to check if it's a boy or a girl every single time. I'm like, and everyone else is like, is it a boy? Is it a girl? They want to check. And I'm like, no, not yet. I'm just not ready for that moment. I just need to
Mm.
savor this moment because those are two special moments. And I didn't want them to just get blended. I'm like, let me just savor the fact that I have my baby now. Look how cute my baby is. I just have no desire to check every time until I come down a little bit, maybe like 5 minutes after. And everyone else around me is like, what is it?
I
But
love
then
that.
we check. Yeah. And then we check when I'm ready and she's a girl. And I was just so shocked. That was probably the happiest moment of my life was the fact that not because a girl or a boy is what matters or anything. It was because that's what my daughter wanted. Like she really wanted a sister and I have a sister and I couldn't imagine if I didn't have a sister to grow up with. And so just that moment for her and we got it all on camera, her
I
reaction.
know.
I've never seen a more authentic joy in a little 4-year-old than I did in that moment. Like it was the best moment ever. So
Mm.
that birth was incredible.
Oh, I know. And I saw that beautiful moment because you shared it on your social, and it's such a heartwarming moment. I think everyone who sees it
Mm.
cries because it is very touching. It's such a beautiful,
Oh,
beautiful moment that you share with the world. And yeah, I really encourage anyone
yeah.
to go and watch your births on your
Oh,
YouTube
thank
or
you.
on your Instagram. They're so beautifully shown, and woman in her power. It's such a beautiful thing to share with the world. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you. Oh, I just love birth. Those are my births.
So beautiful to hear all of your 5 birth stories and the amazing wisdom that you hold within that. Now, if you had a first time mama in front of you right now who's about to have her first baby, and she really wants to have a natural and empowering birth experience, what advice and pearls of wisdom would you give to her?
Well, I think the first thing I would recommend, or the biggest factor for a first time mom, is to, as soon as you feel like labor is imminent and it's coming and you feel those first waves, just go about your normal day. Don't act like, oh, it's go time. Everybody get everything ready. Cause then you can kind of get your hopes up like baby's going to be coming in the next few hours. But if you can just put it off as long as you possibly can, just do the things you were already going to normally do, like definitely let your birth team know and stuff like that. But just dance and clean the dishes and do what you were normally going to do. You don't need to just pause everything and just say it's go time, because that can give you that false sense of like baby's about to be here. And it can get discouraging down the road if labor's like 18 hours later and you're still in labor, because you might have thought, well, labor started that long ago, and that can feel discouraging. But if you just put it off as long as you possibly can and just go about your day, and when you do feel those sensations and they start to get more intense to where you have to pause what you're doing, let yourself pause, experience it, savor it, look forward to it, enjoy it, but then keep going about your day when it goes away. I feel like that was something I was definitely missing in my first 2 labors, where I thought, now's the time. And then by doing that, it just made it seem like labor was so long and I felt discouraged when I didn't have to. I could have just kept going for the next 12 hours about my day and letting myself feel those waves until it gets to the point where you can no longer be doing the dishes right now, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Such great advice. And
Yeah.
and it's such a hard thing though. I think, I've said this
Yeah.
so many times on this podcast, and I even have had mamas come on after listening to this podcast and then had their babies and tell me the same, like, oh, I just couldn't help myself. I just got so excited. I just couldn't sleep.
Yes.
And like,
Yes.
yes, but yeah, it is a great advice. And if you can, like, please rest. What
Yes,
are your
do
other
your
ones?
best. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other ones would be like make intimacy a part of your birth if you have a partner. If you have your
Mm,
partner, like let them take care of you. This doesn't mean you need to have sex, but let them go down on you, give you a massage,
yeah.
some kind of, you could be naked massages, and let them just pleasure you down there so that you can just totally relax and open. But then like
Mm,
let it just be that, just let him take care of you. This isn't about like you have to have sex right now, but it can just really help soften you up, open you up, and just it can get it kick started, and go
mm.
on a walk. If you can walk uphill, even better. Like that just, I feel like those things in combination just get your body just moving, get it ready in that same, just gets it kickstarted. So
That's
those are,
it.
I would say, it's really helpful. And I think the advice when someone says, oh, you should rest, and, like you said, sometimes that can be really helpful till you find the courage to go to the places where you don't want to go to the hardest places. But just make sure not to stay there. You might have those moments where you need to center yourself and you need to rest at that point. Other than, like we said, if you go into labor at nighttime, do your best to sleep. Just sleep as much as you can, because you need that energy to sleep as much as you can and go there. But if you're already like, you're in thralls of labor, like, just go there and just conquer it and have that, be brave, because you have that inside of you. You have that power inside of you. And it's going to be the most ecstatic, overwhelming, incredible, one of the most incredible experiences of your life, like transforming, completely transforming.
I love that you mentioned like intimacy. And even for someone who might be, a single mama, or, don't feel like being intimate with your partner, just actually being sensual.
Yes.
Because that will that opens you, right? So that can be light touch, that can be done by anybody. It is opening to the senses, like having beautiful smells, dim lights, like a beautiful area around you, right? That calls in that sensuality, like create your birth space as you would for intimacy, right?
Yes.
It doesn't have to be, and like sex is everything. I don't like that we separate like foreplay and sex, like somehow,
So true.
right?
So
It's
true.
everything. Like it's even like that light touch, it's kissing you on the neck. It's like, how can you,
That is part of
what,
sex.
yeah,
Yes.
right? That what opens
Yes.
you, what kind of touch opens you? Because when you then, that engorges you, right? Just like in sex, and that happens in birth. Like you're supposed to be engorged, because that will help also relieve pain. It prevents tearing. It's actually a really beautiful tool. So I love that you brought that into this conversation, because not many people do. And I think it's very important to stop seeing it as a taboo subject. Like we're sexual beings. That's a part of being woman, being human. And it's a part of birth. Like what brought that
Yes.
baby, into this
Yes.
world is, it's how you conceived it. It's, it's
Right. Yes.
in love.
And I think the other like most important thing is like this topic that we touched on throughout the entire episode or the entire conversation of going to the places that you're most afraid to go. And so this is especially helpful for someone who it's their first birth, or they've had a C-section maybe, and maybe they've never actually experienced labor. If they had didn't experience labor and had a C-section, and now they're going for a VBAC, or even if they've had labor before, but they want labor to go quicker. This particular pearl of wisdom is just so monumental. And I've talked to so many women who are like, yes, that is the thing. And it's hard to put into words. I actually never really read it exactly like this in any birth book until I just like, for some reason, this particular way of saying it was helpful for me. And I know everybody's going to have different things that just click for them, but this particular way of wording it is just so helpful for me, because it's hard to understand if you haven't experienced it. You're like, I don't really get it. What do you mean go to the places? What do you mean surrender? What does that even mean? To me, that's how I felt. So it's mainly just like wherever you feel it the most, the places that you feel the most pain or the most sensation, you don't have to use the word pain, but where you feel it the most and you're tempted to get out of that position, that's where you need to be. That's right there. Like that place, stay right there. And just relax every fiber of your being, and that will help bring baby down and quicker. So that was definitely my biggest thing for me.
Oh, thank you so much, Ellen, for your amazing birthing wisdom. You're a wealth of knowledge, and there's been so much gems throughout this episode. All that you've shared, each and every birth brought their own beautiful, unique wisdom to all the listeners. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us.
Of course. Thank you for listening. It's been a pleasure to chat with you, and you have so much incredible stuff to say. I love listening to what you have, your insights. You would make obviously an amazing doula for anybody's birth, or midwife, like you said, midwife or doula to have at your birth. How lucky anyone is to have you at your birth.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure and honor having you on.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you love this podcast, then please consider sharing it, leave a review, or make a contribution on our Patreon page. And if you want to connect on social media, then find the podcast on Instagram as The Natural Birth Podcast. Thank you for listening.